and welcome back to Tuesdays with Tuesday. I'm Tuesday and I'm here to read to you today from one of my books. We are in chapter 41 of Taste, which is book 1 of the 9-part Tearaway series. If you have not listened to the first 40 chapters of this book, you'll be a bit lost because we're nearing the end. So go back and listen to those ones first and then come back to this one. Chapter 41. Not Orlando Bloom, Christmas, or Keebler. Mason closed his eyes and pursed his lips, unhappy with himself as he leaned against the door of my car's back seat. No wonder you didn't want us sharing your bed. I can sleep on the floor. I was being selfish. It'd just been so long since I'd slept in a bed with a woman. I was wrong to make you take me in. I waved off his apology. It's fine now. I have a big bed and it actually wasn't bad to share the space with you. I paused when Mason pulled my calf out to rest across his lap. He started rubbing the muscle there, and I felt that dripping of my tension leaking out that made it possible for me to continue with the emotional nudity. Thanks. That feels like the best kind of amazing. Of course, you would do the same for me. You just did it when you kissed my cheek. I dipped my chin to hide my chagrin. Yeah, but you do that cool pulling thing. I can't do that for you. Oh, honey. Yes, you do. His expression was filled with appreciation for our budding connection, and I echoed his soft smile. Go on. I want to know more. I swallowed as I dug back into the muck of the past that always seemed too near to the present, no matter how often I tried to bat it away. I don't know what set it all off. Ollie still won't tell me. One day, Ollie came home with some wood and nails, and he hammered the bedroom door shut. He even got that builder's foam and sprayed the space under the door to seal it so the bugs couldn't get in. Allie cried all night long while I held her. I paused, recalling my sister's pinched expression of emotional turmoil while I'd done my best to give her a safe place to fall apart. It was rough. I hate it when Allie cries. I can imagine. We got in and out through the window, which Allie put a lock on that only we had keys to. She was scared after that, but I never found out why. I just knew that something broke my sister, and Ollie and I couldn't fix it. I hummed at the delicious feel of a man's hands massaging my calf. I couldn't believe the vast difference this whole pulling thing did for me. A week ago, I never would have debated letting someone touch me so thoroughly. But here I was, relaxing further with every stroke. I didn't even care about the germs I knew were still there. Mason's touch was giving goodness to me, not taking from me. I couldn't feel anything but content with him. I was leaning back against the door, my eyelids fluttering shut when Mason started up just above my kneecap and pulled downward with steady pressure befitting a masseur. My heart was fluttering at the supreme intimacy that was well out of my zone of experience. That feels incredible, by the way. Good. It's going to be a long day of omen work. It's best to start the day with no stress. It was poor planning on our parts to push for finding the rock this morning. I was about to say something snarky, but the door I was leaning on popped open, sending me tumbling backward into the mid-morning air. I caught myself on the door before I hit the pavement, but my victory was short-lived. "Gives it to me," a creaky old voice yelled. I was yanked out from under my arms onto the blacktop of the parking lot, shrieking at the intrusion of the wrinkly and smelly Goblin King. Titus was surprisingly stronger and more limber than I would have guessed. Sneaky Christmas elf. Mason was a blur that leapt over me and tackled my attacker, turning them both into a mess of limbs as I struggled to stand. Mason was far stronger than the Goblin King, but he howled and dropped him, recoiling as he shook his hands like they were on fire. Hot, dirty trick that is. Go back to Tearaway, Titus. Like it really gives yous the 2 seconds it would takes for yous to tear my heads offs. I can't best my truculent strength, but I've got a few tricks up my sleeves. Titus pulled back the beige, gauzy sleeve of his robe as if gearing up to pull out a rabbit. He watched me with his giant eyes that had a hint of play mixed in with the malice. I needs the rock for my peoples first. His hunched body and crackly skin made him look like a fight would be out of the question. But as soon as Mason lunged again, Titus pushed at the air with a flick of his hand. Lift these, strong man. I watched in horror as Mason's hands grew so heavy that when they hit the blacktop, they actually cracked it. Mason struggled at the injustice. With muscle-straining effort, he actually managed to lift them off the ground, but was unable to put them to much use. October, run! Mason shouted. Titus sneered at me. Do it, and I'll snaps his thick necks. I knows you got a spare duende. I held up my hands, the debate to give Titus the stone plain on my face. You'll let Mason go if I give you the rock? Mason met my eyes with panic. No, you can't let him have it. He'll keep the whole thing for his people, and no one else will stand a chance. Goblins only care about their race. They don't care about the whole of Tearaway. They are the reason we're down to one stone. They stole and destroyed the others, experimenting with dark magic. Titus clicked his knobby fingers, and Mason's lips glued shut. My guard was rendered mute as he struggled with his hands that weighed more than I could guess. I didn't know how heavy something had to be to put a bowling ball-sized dent in a blacktop. Mason was built like a pro wrestler. Titus's bug eyes gleamed with delight and greed. He spoke so only I could hear him, keeping his threats from Mason. Good girl. Yes, lets him go. I'll let him go if you gives it to me. Gives it to me or I'll hurt you worse than he can. I got the sense that Titus was referring to some higher, darker power I'd yet to be introduced to. My face was screwed up like I'd eaten a pack of Sour Patch Kids. Dude, is this your idea of politics? I'm already unhappy with you because you couldn't keep your people in line. Virgo and the Jag who felt me up got a swift death for crossing us. And this is how you're petitioning for a favor? Weak, Titus. Totally weak. Titus smiled, a twisted, crooked line that split his wrinkled old potato face and somehow made him look more sinister. Goblins aren't the ones to crosses. We's got magic you don't wants to messes with. Gives me the stone now, or I'll sends my men after Mason and Vaughn. You'll keep your claws off Mason and Vaughn. Leave them alone. I'll give the stone to you. Jeez, relax your balls, man. I did my best to maintain a facade of calm through Mason's muted protests. There are organs as they don't needs, you know. I could take out Mason's spleen and he could still do his jobs. I could take a number of things from him if you don't cooperates. Titus's voice cracked with delight. Ezra's looking into upping your securities as we speaks. You're a smart girls. You has to know anyone can be bots. Sama's trying to get the other kings to get the stone to gives it to him. But goblins are smarters. We keep it for ourselves. Then we be the ones Tearaway comes to for aid. He raised a megalomaniac finger in triumph. Who the crap is Sama, and why is everyone so up in arms about this D-bag? Titus's eyes bulged. Sama's the great immortal king without a crowns. It's because of his rations the famines hasn't killed us all. Some of the other kings are willing to turn their crowns over to him if he'll takes care of their land. But goblins never surrenders. His eyes bulged with the confidence of a madman. Hurry, girl. Dude, chill. It's a heavy rock. I feigned exasperation so he didn't see my fingers trembling with rage at being threatened. Sama wants to controls you, but I gots here first. You'll do as I say until your last breaths, or I'll have one of my spies do away with one of your reapers altogether. When I didn't move, Titus's voice lowered, his giant eyes glinting with unconcealed malice. Lady Marianne's on her last legs. If Ezra stands in my ways, if he sends Danny after me to steals back the Sagrado Stone, I'll starts in on their non-vital organs. Do it, girl. I could feeds them to Sylvia's people. They're always hungry for more meat. Danny would survive just fine with only one kidney. But Lady Marianne, I shudders to think what would happen if she caught a mere colds. I was shaking with red-hot rage on the inside, but knew it was important for me to shrug this off like it was all boring to me. Like I want to trek across the whole of Tearaway lugging this thing around. Save me the hassle. It's in the trunk. I ignored Mason's look of utter betrayal and shock as I popped the trunk. Here, I've got a grocery bag you can put it in so you don't touch it. I dumped out the spare set of shoes I kept in my bag for changing into at work and slid the white flimsy plastic over the top of the rock. Titus was next to me, a lust-filled cackle busting out from his lips at the sight of the rock that lit up at my touch. He was a ball of gleaming lust. The covetous energy was practically radiating off him as he rose up on his toes. That's it. That's the lost Sagrado stone. Finally, we can live now how we were meant to. Puts it in the bag, girl. Hurry! Chill out, I'm doing it. Mason's unintelligible groans tugged at my heart, and I prayed my hands didn't tremble and give me away. Mason was a good man, and I couldn't just stand idly by and let Titus use him to control me. Mason was too strong to be abused like that. The world needed more selfless people like him in it. I wouldn't let Titus take away one of the few good ones. Danny's voice couldn't have been more perfectly timed. Titus, get away from her! His feet pounded the pavement behind me, and I waited for Titus to jinx Danny in a similar way he'd gotten Mason. As if in slow motion, Titus turned his head and sneered in Danny's direction. He raised his hand to snap his fingers so he could inflict whatever damage he felt like on my own personal Frankenstein monster. Titus was distracted, and I was ready. Both hands on the stone, I hoisted it up and bashed the old man in his skull with it. I knew that even if it wasn't the magical tool that turned anyone who wasn't me into stone, it was still a heavy rock I could do significant damage with. Titus fell to the pavement, crumbling like an old sheet on a summer's day as it drifted off the laundry line. He reached for me drunkenly, but I was a woman possessed. I dropped to my knees and cracked him in the skull again, this time hitting my rock atop gray slate that was hard to break, but not impossible. There were too many people in my life who stepped on others to get what they wanted. Jessica, who stepped on me by dating Betta while we were still together. The kids in elementary school who made up a rhyme to make fun of me called Filthy February. The inmates who tried to scare me while I was treating them. And Bev, every single time I let my guard down. I was tired of being stepped on. Titus didn't care about his world. He cared that he got his peeled grapes while the rest of Tearaway starved. I brought the glowing weapon down over and over again until Mason's voice found me in my madness. October, stop. He's dead. He's dead. Put the stone down. I smashed a few more times on autopilot, not noticing that Titus's head was almost completely turned into a pile of scattered pebbles. Danny slid the backpack he'd just purchased from the outdoor supply store toward me with wide eyes, his hands up to display their innocence. Okay, kid. Just put the stone into the backpack so we don't accidentally turn into that. He pointed to what was left of Titus, and I gasped in terror at the irreparable damage I'd done. Mason's hands and mouth were back to normal. His palm was covering his mouth in horror as he took in the carnage. They're tied with the Tahi charm. Titus tied himself to the entire goblin nation. It took a solid 3 seconds for his words to take meaning. The color drained from my face when it hit me. You don't mean... I didn't just kill a whole race of people. I only killed Titus. I said only like it wasn't the worst thing a person could do, to kill another. Mary Ann's shock and dread were contagious as she came out from where she'd been hiding in the store's exit, her expression mirroring itself onto me at the awful thing I'd done. Oh, what are we going to do? They'll sentence her, Danny. She'll be locked up or executed for sure. Danny's shock melted into a hard look to cover over his disbelief. No, October can't be executed. If she is, all of Tearaway will keep starving to death. You know omens are untouchable. But this, a whole nation, gone. Then it dawned on me. Titus wasn't the monster. I was. I stumbled back until my butt bumped the car. Oh, what did I do? How did... He went after Mason and I just snapped. It's all right. Just put the stone away and everything will be fine. Danny's tone was the steady one of an officer talking down a shooter. I was the shooter. I was the danger. I was the criminal. I'd stepped on Titus and he would never get back up to fight the stink of another day. Tearaway was already changing me. First I'd murdered Tonga, and now a whole nation. I was supposed to bring life and stability to their world, but instead I brought genocide and destruction. Danny jerked his head toward the car, but gave me a wide berth. Come on, kid. We've got to go straight to Ezra and see what's got to be done from here. It was in that moment I knew that of all the monsters I'd met in Tearaway, I was the worst one. That is the end of Taste. That was book 1 in the Tearaway series. I am really proud of us for getting through an entire book together. That's amazing. Good for you. And good for me because that was hard to read. I'm not a professional reader. So if you want to go ahead to the next book, it is called Tremble. That is book 2 in the Tearaway series by, let's spell it, Mary E. Twomey. There we go. Next Tuesday, come on back because I'm going to read you just the first chapter of Tremble. Just the first one to give you a taste of what the next book will be about. Until then, I will see you and have a great week.